I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, to be held August 21st, 2012 at 6 p.m. at the City Council chambers. Deputy Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pratt.
Here.
Councilmember Dowling.
Here.
Councilmember Alinsky. Here. Councilmember Hauge.
Here.
Councilmember Norman.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pfeiffer.
Here.
Mayor Jones.
Here. Thank you. Our next item is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I think we have Kimber Lanning with us tonight, if you'd like to come up. Kimber is, she can explain a little bit about what she does. You want to share a little bit of information with us?
Sure. I'd be happy to, Mayor. Thank you for having me, members of the council. I run an organization called Local First Arizona. We are a statewide nonprofit organization, and I have addressed most of you before. This is on.
Matt. Excuse me, we'll work on that. Okay,
Hello?
try again.
Hello, hello? Can you hear me now? Okay. Mayor and members of the council, thank you for having me. My name is Kimber Lanning. I am the executive director of Local First Arizona. We're a statewide nonprofit organization working to strengthen Arizona's economy. And we have several different ways we do that. The first thing we do is we try to remind consumers how important it is to choose locally owned businesses when they have opportunity to do so. That includes ownership here locally, but also thinking about how do we retain more dollars right here in Cottonwood. And secondly, we work on business-to-business support, which encourages businesses to utilize local talent, local supply chains, local manufacturing whenever opportunities arise. And the third area we're working in is developing cultural tourism, which is tying together all the great unique things that rural Arizona has to offer and educating the rest of the state about how unique each of these communities is. Today, Arizonans spend $6.5 billion a year vacationing in California, and we have a stated goal to redirect 20% of that around the state into our rural communities, and we're proud to partner with Cottonwood in that endeavor. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you very much. If you stand for the pledge
Stand
if
for
you're
the
able,
pledge.
or sit if you like.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And on behalf of my colleagues,
Play ball.
a little certificate for you.
Fantastic.
We just like to say thank you thank you for saying the pledge. Thank you for everything else that you've done for the city.
Thank you so much.
Okay, the next item is a brief summary of current events by the mayor, city council, and/or city manager. The public body does not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter brought up during this summary unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. Mr. Bartosh.
Madam Mayor, council members, just two short items. Just to let you and the public know, our police department has acquired a emergency notification system, and they are working on getting that installed now, which will allow them to notify the whole city by phone, by cell phone, by text, if there's an emergency, or they'll be able to pick certain areas of the city where we may be experiencing some difficulties, even to the point of just a water line break or a power outage or something like that. We can use that system to notify people so they know what's going on. And we'll actually have the police chief come to the council and give a better definition of how that works and how they're going to be using it. On another item, our fire department is partnered with the Verde Valley Medical Center to purchase and install child car seats and boosters. The medical center donated $8,200 to purchase the car seats, and our fire department is showing people how to install them. And if you haven't installed a car seat recently, it really is, there's some expertise that's required. So make sure that if you get a new car seat for your child or grandchild, get in there and make sure you know how to do it correctly, and our fire department's there to help. That's it, Madam Mayor.
All right, Council, Vice Mayor?
I just had a week-long trip. We went through Colorado and New Mexico and on into Laramie, Wyoming, and I'm here to tell you there's no place like home.
Was it green?
It was green, but there's still no place like Cottonwood, Arizona.
Council? Mr. Dowling?
I just wanted to give some props to the water
Luau?
no, I'll get to that one.
Okay.
To the utility department. I have some friends that got back from an outing about midnight on Saturday, or it was Friday night, and they had almost no water pressure. That night, before around midnight, they called and reported that, and they had a leak fixed before the sunrise the next day. And so they got on Facebook and gave a glowing review to the city's utility department. So I just wanted to make sure to pass that around. And then, yes, I did attend the luau with the mayor, and I'll let her specify on that.
Oh.
You can, you know.
Well, we collaborated with the Verde Valley Medical Center and Fit Kids Arizona, and we had a pool party, a luau. And what we try to do is we work with the First Lady Michelle Obama's Let's Move program. And it's trying to get kids to be active, and the hospital furnishes a healthy barbecue, so you have chicken kebabs and watermelon instead of hot dogs and chips. So trying to just work with the kids. Megan Anderson, who is their dietitian, Dr. Pico wasn't able to be there, so Megan gave the cooking demonstration. And Marianne helped the council a lot with this project, and our staff at the Recreation Center were amazing, all the way from Richard and Jason and Hez and Jack, and all the lifeguards were excellent, and all the little kids and their parents had a great time. So thank you, council, for helping with that and funding it. You're appreciated by all. Anything else? I was on vacation last week. Thank you, Vice Mayor, for keeping things afloat here. And in Colorado, my husband visited his 82-year-old uncle, Bob Jones. And we had our trailer parked right by the Uncompahgre River for a week, and so it was very relaxing. Terrence.
Yeah, I should just announce, in case anybody does not know, that the Verde Valley campus of Yavapai College is open once again. We started classes on Monday, and people can actually still register for classes through August 26th. So come on up and join us.
Okay. Anything else? If not, we'll move on to the next item, which is the call to the public. This portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item that is not on the agenda. So if there's something that's not on the agenda, this would be the time for you to speak. However, the council cannot engage in discussion regarding any item that is not officially listed on the agenda for discussion and/or action per ARS 38-431-02H, and comments are limited to a 5-minute time period. We have Carl Prigge for call to the public tonight.
Mayor, council members, I'm Carl Prigge with Red Rock Skydiving. We've been here 5 years now and continue to attract people from all over the world. Just today we had several people from France and China come out to jump with us. Now that that's well established, we are looking at other avenues to join. And several months ago, the Carter Oil Distribution Facility in Camp Verde closed their doors. So I approached Carter Oil in Flagstaff, and I am now the aviation oil distributor for Verde Valley and the Prescott Valley. And the next thing I'd like to get into is aircraft maintenance. And I've got a proposal to offer aircraft maintenance at the Cottonwood Airport. And the council can peruse it at their convenience. And if they want to work on it in one of their sessions, they may.
Is this just one sheet?
It's one sheet, yes. That's all I have for today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Best wishes for your business. Okay, on these other items, these would go, one is listed as the call to the public, Mr. Lemaster, but I did talk to our city attorney, and we can discuss that at the, when we talk about the NACOG item, if that suits you. Is that okay?
Yes, fine.
All right. So, okay, anybody else for call to the public? Sir? Will someone, Richard, will you grab him a sheet to?
Hey, my name is John Hunter. I'm sorry. I hadn't planned to speak, but I thank the council and the Cottonwood Area Transit for allowing us to get here to attend the meeting tonight. As you know, transportation is a big issue for those of us that are disabled and rely on the paratransit or the ADA transit. And I know this has been a concern for several meetings about the city taking over the Cottonwood Area Transit. And I mentioned at one of the first meetings that my concern is that this is a vital issue for those of us that depend on public transportation, particularly the paratransit. This is the only way that we have to get around. And I hope that you, as you deliberate the various issues that come up with the transit system. I know the voucher system is coming up, that you remember that this is a vital issue for us. It's a way that we are able to access the community, the only way that some of us may have. So that I hope you keep that in mind. And one other thing that I'd like to have you remember is that being in our situation, the minority of people with disabilities is only 10 minutes away from any one of you. So please keep that in mind as you think about the public transportation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next item, we'll close the floor to the public. And just for the record, John Hunter is the gentleman's name.
I think you were planning to speak during the
Are you, all of the transportation discussions can take place on that item when it comes up? Yes, everybody will get a chance to speak that wishes to. All right. Okay, the next item is presentation of the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2011. And we have Mr. Rodriguez, are you?
I think you have an award there.
I do. So do you want me to just go ahead and read this?
Yeah, that'd be just fine. That'd be
Okay.
perfect. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. So here's a letter from the Government Finance Officers Association to Mayor Diane Jones. I am pleased to notify you that the City of Cottonwood, Arizona has received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for the current budget from the Government Finance Officers Association, or how do you say that acronym? GOFA, okay. This award is the highest form of recognition in governmental budgeting and represents a significant achievement by our organization. When a distinguished budget presentation award is granted to an entity, a certificate of recognition for budget presentation is also presented to the individual or department designated as being primarily responsible for having achieved the award. And this award has been presented to our very own Carol Brown, who is our budget analyst. So from the Government Finance Officers Association, they continue, we hope you will arrange for a formal public presentation of the award and that appropriate publicity will be given to this notable achievement. We appreciate your participation in the Budget Award Program. Through your example, we hope that other entities will be encouraged to achieve excellence in budgeting. And I just like everybody to know that not every city and town receives this award. This is something really special, and Cottonwood, I think I would give credit to Rudy Rodriguez, our finance director, administrative services general manager, and all of his staff members who work very hard to do the books really well on behalf of the public. Ethics, honesty are things that I appreciate from our finance department. I just think we have the best. What do you guys think? Yep. We're very, very blessed and very lucky. So tonight we want to present this beautiful plaque from the Government Finance Officers Association, the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, presented to the City of Cottonwood, Arizona for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2011. And what would the council's pleasure be? Would you like to all come down and present this award to our staff? Let's go. She'll take my stool. Okay, so we have 2 awards besides this one, if you would.
All right.
Where's our city manager? So, Chuck, if you will come up and help us pass out this award. Here's the other one. To your staff. Is everybody's head sticking up? And having gone through the budget, I guess John's not there yet. Are you done, John? Okay, having gone through the budget this year on all those extra meeting days, we really appreciate the kind of work that Carol does on behalf of the citizens of Cottonwood. Thank you, Carol. Yes.
And this is, how many years have we gotten this award?
18
years.
or 18 years.
Great record.
It is. So thank you on behalf of the citizens. Thank you so much. I mean, isn't that just great and amazing? 18 years of being recognized for
Good work.
our financial capabilities within the city. It's pretty awesome. Okay, the next item is presentation of the 2012 Governor's Tourism Award in the Cooperative Marketing category, Taste of Historic Old Town Cottonwood. And we have with us tonight, we've got Kelly Foy and is Lita here? If you would all come up to be recognized. And who else do we have from Old Town tonight? Anyone else?
I think that's it.
I know that Crema was quite involved with this process, and so I just wanted to share a little bit of information. The merchants of Old Town Cottonwood joined forces to market themselves as a travel destination steeped in wine tasting, great food, and antiquing. Working collaboratively, the business owners created a package deal of living social and proceeded to sell 750 tasting packages in less than 4 months. 96% of the participants who provided feedback in an online survey after their visit had never even been to Cottonwood, and they all indicated, 96% indicated they would actually come back. So I think this really speaks to our Old Town merchants and this package that you did. So you used the brand new Weekend Zone of, there was a video clip that you created that we've all seen, and I love to watch that. It's so excellent. But we had partners were Casey Rooney, of course, from the Cottonwood Economic Development
Council.
Thank you. A commission, committee, council, the word just. And then we had the Cottonwood Chamber of Commerce also as partners. And Local First Arizona with Kimber Lanning, who introduced herself a little while ago, also worked with our merchants here in Cottonwood to create a small wonders map that highlights restaurants, wine tasting rooms, and retail. And they created 50,000 maps, as I understand it. Those all went out to hotels and resorts throughout Arizona. So I've kind of covered a little bit about this, but I would invite you all to share your perspective with our community and to also congratulate you on this Governor's Award. So, Casey, you want to start?
Yes, Mayor, City Council, thank you for letting us brag up Cottonwood. We're really proud of our community, and we really want to thank you all because we can't do it by ourselves. We've got to have the support of the city to do what we're doing. But we did get the Best Cooperative Marketing Award at the Governor's Tourism Conference, and I gave you a photo, and I just wanted to tell you who all these people are in the photo. Of course, the lady on the right, that's Ms. Sherry. She is the tourism director, state tourism director. Of course, Lana is the next person. Then we've got the next two people are the people that put together the video that you've seen. So they worked very closely with Kimber to pull that together. And there's me and the mayor, Kimber, and the last lady is the governor's administrative chief of staff. So she's right up there next to the governor. And we were very proud to get this award at the Biltmore on July 14th. There were about, 400 or 500 people at this event, and we were very proud to be to get this award because we've worked really hard to be collaborative in our own community as well as the whole region, and it's starting to show. We're getting the awards, we're getting the grants, we're getting the kind of things that make us really proud as a community. So I'll spread the wealth here. Lita, you want to say anything from Kremlin? Come on, just get up there and say something. Anyway.
I was in the back of the room at the awards ceremony just bursting with Verde Valley pride. So we are very happy that it drew any attention to Old Town Cottonwood and Verde Valley in general. And this was just truly a collaborative effort. And I know that we've used that word about 100 times already, but the Cottonwood Chamber, Local First Arizona, the merchants themselves who basically donated their services or products to put it together is what made it happen. So,
And when I found out that she was in the back of the room and didn't come up with us to receive the award, I was pretty heartbroken over that. And I've apologized many times, but she was so shy, and
We didn't know she was back
and
there.
we didn't know she was back there, and we would have loved to have had you with us when we accepted the award, because you did so much of the work.
no, everybody pitched in.
Yes.
Well, I just want to thank the council and Local First and CEDC and Old Town Association and all the merchants, because, you know, the Cottonwood Chamber's out there trying to promote things. They give us so much to promote, and Kimber and Local First they've done a great job of helping us out, giving us so much help that we couldn't have done by ourselves. They've given us a lot of exposure statewide. So this was very exciting to get the award in front of all those people, because now people are saying, oh, Old Town Cottonwood, we think we want to go there. So we're inviting lots of people to come visit.
And Kimber wrote this. I guess she wrote the application for the recognition.
Well, and Mayor, I say this sincerely when I say it is easy for me to go around the state and brag about Cottonwood. It really is. What you have going on here with the collaboration, the Old Town merchants, just the character of your downtown is so unique, and you have so many sharp business owners here. You have great economic development department, you have a fantastic chamber, you have everything together in the right place at the right time, and it makes it easy for me to come in and tell your story. And I'm not at all surprised we got 750 people to come here, and that 96% of them are coming back. It's a beautiful place, and I'm happy to promote it and be a part of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just have one more thing to say. I remember last year when we went to the League Conference, which is coming up next week, I remember Mr. Pratt was there, and he was working with Kimber that day, and they did some presentations, and I have never seen anybody so excited about a community in my life, and that was Mr. Pratt. He was out there bragging up this town like you wouldn't believe, so I'm really proud. And so I want to present this to the city, to the merchants of Old Town, to the city council. We're going to hang it in the Business Assistance Center across the street. We can hang it in the chamber, spread it around, but we're really proud of this.
So council, let's go up and accept it. Come on. Our city manager.
Yeah, Mike.
Can you see Terrence?
I can get in front of you, Kim. So it's so exciting. I mean, the governor really should have been here tonight. She should have, yes. All right. Well, thank you so much, Katie. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Of course. Okay, the next item is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of 8/7/12. I read them, they looked good, but I wasn't at the meeting. So, Mr. Pratt?
I just have one thing.
Okay.
I don't know why I noticed these things, I guess because I teach English and read a lot of essays. On page 12, our city attorney is referred to as council member Horton. As much as I'd like to have him as a fellow council member. Just to be accurate, he's going to be called.
And I didn't, my eyes just jumped right over that one. That's what you're going to do when you retire, right?
I just got promoted.
Yeah.
What he aspires to.
Now, I don't know if that's a promotion or not.
I don't think so. At least not in the pocketbook.
No.
Okay, next item. Are we going to hear?
I move to approve the minutes of the August 7th, 2012 City Council meeting.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Pratt made the motion. Councilmember Norman seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, comments regarding items listed on the agenda are limited to a 5-minute time period per speaker. The first item is unfinished business, and item number 1 is supplemental benefit program for non-public safety employees. Mr. Rodriguez.
Mayor and Council, this is This is a continuation of an item that was on our agenda the last council meeting. I'm not going to go over the council communication. I'm basically going to put together a quick PowerPoint presentation only because there are questions asked about public safety and also about the costs involved. So just wanted to briefly go through this before you make any kind of decision. Supplemental benefits plan extends a little bit more than just workman's comp for injured employees that were injured at work. And just wanted to put up some numbers out there. So I'll make this relatively quick. You want to know, one of the questions that was asked at the last meeting was the cost involved. Over the last 5 years, the city has paid $23,000 in workman's comp. In workman's comp costs. Okay, that's an average of about $3,800, close to $3,900 a year. And as you can see, just by looking at that third individual down, these are individuals, it's very difficult for us to determine exactly what the cost is going to be from year to year. We can have a very light year costing us just a couple thousand, and we can have a very heavy year, as we did for the 2000 year, and that was $13,000. It all depends on what kind of injuries we have during those specific years. And this is just fire and police. If you look at that same period of time, the last 5 years, if you look at the same 5 years, had we gone out and covered the costs that the state is now forcing us to do, it would have been $4,900, an additional $1,000 per year. Okay. Again, these are the other funds: general fund, HERF fund, water, utilities, now transportation. Average cost for us for those other funds was $2,400, $2,500. That would have been nearly $3,000 had we followed the current supplemental plan that the state has actually forced us to accept. But you see, we don't ever consider the kind of these other costs that come about whenever we have an individual out. Take, for example, that one police officer that I mentioned earlier that cost us $13,000 in 1 year. You have to realize that that's not all it costs us. It costs us to replace that individual with another officer. And one officer in a 6-month period will cost us $34,000. And those are things that we don't ever seem to see. We always say, well, it's only a couple $1,000. No, there's always other costs involved. We can't, if an officer's out, we have to replace him with somebody. If we have another one. If our firefighter is down, we have to replace him with somebody. Those are just 2 examples of what about a 6-month cost would be. And there's a reason why I use a 6-month cost. And one of the reasons is because they're obviously, the way this thing is now set up, courtesy of our legislature, they're forcing us to go ahead and pay retirement. So now an individual will end up taking about 10% more in salary by being ill and staying at home than by coming out to work. Okay, and there's no incentive for them even to take light duty. And so there's issues involved with this, and this is currently now police, and fire, and we're looking to try to extend this a little bit further. And there's always concerns with that. What I'm going to show you here in the next few slides are things that the city of Cottonwood is already doing for its employees. This chart up here is a depiction of what the city of Cottonwood already does for a lot of its employees. You can already, what I did here was, this is the chart of just one of our health insurance plans, our core plan, which is our basic plan. If you follow Cottonwood, fourth one down, all the way across, the double E's is what an employee pays. And if you compare it to just about everybody there, you notice that the first row where it has employee only, city employee doesn't pay anything. While the school districts, an employee has to pay for part of their employee. You have employee and spouse. If you look at that, outside of Camp Sedona, we cover the big portion of their health insurance. If you look at the core, including their children, an employee pays $71. That's a lot less than what other employees means that the city is absorbing the remainder of the cost. And if you look at the family, we're third out of 6 in that particular plan, which still means that the city of Cottonwood is absorbing a lot of cost. So we do cover a lot of costs just to keep our employees. And the reason I'm bringing a lot of this stuff up is because we seem to always forget how much the city of Cottonwood provides for its employees. What's the city done recently? Well, as you may recall, over the last 4 to 5 years, we haven't laid anybody off. While other cities around have lost employees or laid off employees, or done furloughs and cut hours, we have not done that. We have funded the merit program for the past 5 years, and that 5th year we gave out a 2.5% discretionary pay to thank our employees for all the hard work that they've done for the city of Cottonwood. We've also instituted a leave sharing program, which I'm going to touch on in just a few minutes. And then we currently have a compensation study in place, in progress, which is something we do not do that a lot of cities are thinking about doing, but they're waiting until their resources become a little bit stronger. Ours, we're trying to get it ahead of the curve, get it in place, and then expecting the economy to continue better. We were very confident of that. The city already makes our employees whole. This was a plan that was already in place before the legislature got their hands on it. Obviously, workman's comp and a work-related injury, workman's compensation covers 2/3. The remainder of an employee's salary is covered, the other 1/3 is covered through their sick leave accrual. Once if that is exhausted, then we go through their vacation in order to make them whole. The employee continues to accrue vacation and sick leave, which is not possible through the new plan that the legislature has posed to. Employee does not lose any retirement time due to being cut out of work, out of a work-related injury. And then employee pays its own retirement contribution, not the city, which is different from what the public safety supplemental benefits is asking to do. And the employee, of course, is made whole with no incentive to stay out because they actually they can't make no more staying home than being out. Than being at work. I want to touch base on a leave sharing program. This was, it was originally put together was requested for us to implement back when Brian was in place, and it just never seemed to work. When our current city manager came into place, he asked us to push this thing. We started asking a different set of questions than before, and we were able to put together a leave sharing program that I think has already been used once and very successfully. If an employee has a hardship, a no leave accrual left, we can go out and solicit our other employees to contribute hours, which we convert to dollars, so we can pay that employee. The big problem we had in the past was that we were trying to figure out how to convert hours for hours, meaning how can a person who's earning $25,000 contribute to pay my salary? Well, it took us a while to figure out, well, if you convert it to dollars, well, then it's dollar for dollar, not hour for hour. Can be used for hardship for both medical, not only for itself, but for a family. Okay? One caveat we do have is that they have not abused their sick leave. In the past, we had employees that would get a few hours of sick leave and they'd call in sick. Well, if you do that and you run out of sick leave, an emergency comes up, we can't help you out. But this plan has also helped us sidestep some of that. The city manager is the one who's the ultimate decider on whether we offer this particular leave plan. And of course, I just mentioned that we do have guidelines hour for hour, what kind of leave they can provide, what they can't. And then, of course, this is all an attempt to continue to make employees whole if they're out. We've done everything we possibly can, including exchanging hours in order to make sure that employees are made whole. So there's no reason why an employee can go on workman's comp will not be made whole. Another question that came up was, well, why do we treat public safety different? Why do they seem to be a different class? You know, this particular this was not a city of Cottonwood issue. We don't consider our employees different. A police officer is the same as any other individual. The legislature did this to it. This was not the city of Cottonwood doing it. They were the ones who set up the public safety. They were the ones who did the 20, now 25-year retirement program versus cities having 80 points, including their time of service and their age. And of course, that they used to have a deferred retirement option, which is now non-existent, which allowed them to go ahead and get on the program and have to retire after 5 years without contributing into the plan. You have to realize that the city of Cottonwood had nothing to do with this. This was all these things are all legislative issues. So the differentiation is not due to council, it was not due to public safety. It just happened courtesy of our legislature. This is bad legislation. Okay. We fully agree that an employee that gets hurt on the job should be made whole. But that's a decision that we have made internally. And we were trying to keep both public safety and our employees on an even keel. Everyone's equal. Well, the legislature continues to make those disparities. I did ask Mike and our chief of police to please join me today, because you need to realize that they're not the ones who are pushing this. Maricopa and their ultimate wisdom pushed this issue through for whatever reason. They've got a strong union. Our public safety officers would much rather have their employees on there than having to spend overtime dollars to try to get these people, would like to not incentivize people to stay home, which causes their overtime dollars to grow. We're compensating people above base pay now, courtesy of this new legislation. There's no incentive to come back to work. There's an incentive to stay home, okay? And you may think that all of our employees are honest. Yes, they are honest. Everybody is honest unless they have an opportunity. So we're trying to cut that opportunity to be dishonest off. And we all know that a workman's comp issue can very easily be extended. The increased overtime is one of our biggest concerns, not necessarily the cost of the program as it is the increased overtime, because we do have to replace those individuals if somebody's out, and especially if they're out for a 6-month period. You already saw the costs. They're not something to just shy away from. We also have to look that once this is in, it becomes an entitlement. In all honesty, as of September 30th, 2014, this is not going to go away. It may sunset for the 70 or 60 individuals, actually less than individuals that we have. But I guarantee you, if this goes in, we have 180 individuals that we're going to have to contend with. This will probably become an entitlement. One thing I did check on is ASRS will not allow us to pay their retirements. So bottom line, employees are no worse for wear. We can't pay their retirement. And then I'll finish up with 2 wrongs don't make a right in this case. So just wanted to bring those things to light. The city has done a lot of work to try to keep their employees whole. We allow them to use their vacation and sick leave. We continue to put money into their vacation and sick leave while they're out. We keep them whole. If they don't have any for whatever reason for extended periods, we try to make them whole by bringing other employees in to help us fund while they're out. So there's nothing that keeps us from doing those things, and those are things we did internally. The legislature continues to provide, to cause a rift between regular employees and public safety, and the way the city of Cottonwood has always treated all employees is they're all equal. It's the legislature that keeps driving a wedge between our employees. With that, I'll go ahead and answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Alinsky?
What are some of the other municipalities doing, the smaller municipalities doing with this legislature?
With the public safety, they're having to adopt it. The public safety issue, we have no choice but to adopt that. It's another thing that legislature's putting through us, to us. Other municipalities, many of them are starting to do, if they haven't already, they're starting to do the same thing we are. Is they're making employees whole, whether they make them whole out of their pocket or they allow them to use vacation sick leave, they're still making them whole. And that's what we're doing with our employees.
Mr. Pratt?
So other municipalities are not adopting this policy for their regular employees?
No, many of them have, like I said, many of them already have a plan to keep them whole. They're not extending this. First of all, they cannot pay retirement benefits to ASRS.
Yeah, good.
Council? Mr. Howdigy?
There at the bottom where it says 2 wrongs don't make a right, what are the 2 wrongs?
No, the 2 wrongs is, one is the legislature is doing this to us.
Okay, I got that.
It's not right. The other one is if we implement this, to try to implement this, it's another wrong decision. So the way I see it, and that's just me personally, is if one state's already done it to us, we really shouldn't go out and go that. That's my opinion, and that's what I'm doing. Is if we do this, that's going to be 2 wrongs going that direction, adopting this particular policy. We already have a policy in place that keeps employees whole. We need to go out and then implement some sort of hybrid policy, and I don't believe we do.
One thing about workman's comp, I mean, you get 2/3 of your salary. I had always heard that the reason for that is because it's not taxable. So essentially about 1/3 of your income goes in taxes, so they're essentially making the same amount of money.
Certainly that's the case. We just continue to pay the extra additional 1/3 out of their vacation sick leave to make sure that they're whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I agree with staff on this item.
So do I.
And
without
Madam
reservations whatsoever.
Mr. Bartosh?
Just to make sure the council's clear on what the 2 differences really are is with public safety employees, the state legislation has said you've got to pay them for that 1/3 without them using their sick leave or vacation, and you have to make up their retirement contribution, which is 7.65%. With regular employees, it would mean making up that 1/3 where they wouldn't have to use their sick leave or vacation, and that would be the only difference. We, as a city, we can't make up their contribution to ASRS,
right.
as it's not allowed by state law. So those are the two differences.
And it's a really bad law. And so is anybody going to do anything about this in the next legislative session?
Well, I would certainly hope that the League of Cities, hopefully through resolutions that come out of the cities, say, let's not do this. Let's end it next year as opposed to waiting for it to sunset in 2014.
So we missed this year's resolutions, I guess, if we didn't put anything in. I don't think anybody did. I haven't read anything.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing
So next
anything
year
on
we
this.
should start working with our legislators.
You know, and again, sorry, Mayor, I think everybody was surprised by this legislation, and nobody really saw it coming until really after the resolution period started. So I think just now everybody's kind of dealing with this and going.
And looking at their budgets and going, this
wow,
is just plain wrong.
Here? Right.
Yeah. Vice Mayor.
Thanks, Rudy. This is exactly why I wanted to bring it back so you could come out with some facts and figures to show to us as to why Well, we all agree it's bad legislation, but this gives us some idea of why we should not extend it to the whole entire staff, because the staff is already basically getting a better deal than they would with this. So thank you for your facts and figures. This is what I was looking for. Thanks.
We really do try to take care of staff. I know it sounds bad, but we really don't need the legislature telling us how to treat our employees, at least not here in Cottonwood. I think we try real hard, and we try to take in a lot of suggestions. And I think we've come a long ways over the last, especially over the last 5 years, to prove how much we care for our employees.
And I agree. From what I see from management in the city, you guys really go to bat for them all the time. You're like always looking out for the employees of the city, and the council is supportive of that. Who had their hand up?
Did you want to say?
Well, yeah, I was just going to, if I understand this correctly, then legally we cannot reproduce the public safety system for the regular staff because ASRS does not allow us to pay their retirement.
Right.
So there is really not a legal way it could be done. If I understand that, if they say you can't pay that, we can't pay it. So
Yep.
even if we tried to implement this, we couldn't do it.
I'm sure there'd be some way to go ahead and try to do something like that. But then again, you're still faced with the same situation where you're paying someone more money to stay home than to come to work or take a light duty job.
Right. And then if you start the process and it sunsets and you take it away, what's more cruel, to give somebody a drink or to hold the canteen or to give them a drink and then take it away? I mean, it's one of those things where you may not want to start something that isn't going to carry through depending on the legislation. That's all.
And you know, for our legislators who always talk about reducing the budget, they weren't even thinking about the taxpayers when they passed this law.
No.
You know, it's so. Yes, Mr. Elinsky.
What would happen if? What would the state do if this city or other cities just didn't approve this?
Of what?
Of this
passing the public
legislation.
safety benefits
Yeah.
plan? I think pretty much I think it's in place. We just have to formulate a plan on how we're going to do it. We don't have a choice. I don't believe we have a choice.
That's correct.
For public safety.
For public safety.
Because they administer the ASRS.
And we've already approved it for public safety at the
Right.
last
Yeah,
meeting.
that's right.
No, I think the legislation has said you've got to do this for public safety. So, I mean, my sense is that if the city chose not to do it, I mean, that's certainly the council's prerogative, but I'm sure somebody would sue you over that, take you to court to, make you follow the laws.
If somebody did get injured during that time period and you weren't doing what the state told you to.
It's the state anyway that administers the
They
ASRS,
administer
yeah.
both ASRS and the public safety
I
retirement
understand.
system.
Okay.
And we already did approve it for public safety in
Right.
obeying the state law. But as far as extending it, I'm opposed to it. I agree with staff myself.
Well, I think you've proven it by the facts that you've presented. It makes sense to me.
So we don't need a
Councilmember
motion
Norman?
on this, right? Unless,
We don't need to make any motion if you're not going to approve it. The thing is, then technically we still, see, my concern was always having two standards for two groups of people. And in the legislature's eyes, that's exactly what we have here. It's two standards for different people. We're not treating everyone equally the same, although even in your presentation you mentioned that we were treating everybody the same, but we're really not.
No,
We have two different standards set up for two different groups of people.
And we do, but that's not Cottonwood's fault.
No, I'm not blaming
Right.
Cottonwood on that.
You're right. They have put us in a bit of a bind, causing these rifts. Rifts are a different class of people. You have your public safety, and then you have the general fund employees. But that's not our doing; it's their doing.
Any more discussion on this item? Thank you for your work on that,
Thank you, Mayor.
your explanation. Okay, the next item is the item 10, the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Item number 1, resolution number 2656, approving an intergovernmental agreement with the town of Clarkdale, Arizona for police and dispatching services. Item number 2, resolution number 2657, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, approving an intergovernmental agreement with the town of Jerome, Arizona for police dispatching. Are there any items that anyone wishes to remove for discussion? If not, do I hear a motion, Mr. Pratt?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Mr. Pratt made the motion, Mr. Elinsky seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Deputy Clerk, please read resolution number 2656 by title only and resolution number 2657 by title only.
Resolution number 2656, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, approving an intergovernmental agreement with the town of Clarkdale, Arizona for police dispatching. Resolution number 2657, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, approving an intergovernmental agreement with the town of Jerome, Arizona for police dispatching. Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 11, which is new business. The following items are for council discussion, consideration, and possible legal action. Item number 1 is a request from Sharon Bushnell to keep bees at her residence located at 631 South 7th Place. Deputy Clerk, were you going to
Basically, we
announce the item? You just want to hear from the citizen?
Yeah,
Okay.
basically it's, we have to request an exemption according to the municipal code under chapter 6.16. And that's why Ms. Bushnell's here today.
Okay. So Ms. Bushnell, if you'd like to come up to the lectern and share your information with the council and the public.
Hi, my name is Sharon Bushnell, and I have been observing bees all my life. And these last 7 years, I have stumbled across how to prevent them from going extinct. And I was wondering if it would be okay to put one hive on my property.
Okay, and council has, in past discussions, we've always talked about our concern about the bees becoming extinct. And we approved one beehive back behind the grade school about 4 or 5 years ago, the Wasdens. And then we approved another one close to my house. And I think it's the, what was it? I think it said it here. It's not Tierra Verde, but it's the one that's...
Vista Grande.
There you go, Vista Grande. And to staff's knowledge, have we had any complaints about either of those?
No, not to my knowledge. You know, the police chief did bring up an incident, I guess, that happened down in Glendale today where they had to evacuate a neighborhood because of bee attacks, where somebody was keeping bees in their backyard. And I wonder how you do that, because obviously these were Africanized bees. How do you prevent that from happening?
Well, they're 95% Africanized now.
Oh, are they?
But they can be trained if you know how to handle the bees.
Now the last people that wanted beehives, pardon me for interrupting, they talked about that they used the queen bee. They imported different queen bees, and that the queen bees controlled a lot of that.
Well, if she has had her wing clipped, just 1/3 of one of her wings, it keeps her from flying and going about, and I mean she stays put.
Right,
and
but
so
I
if
mean,
she stay put, then the hive will stay put.
Okay.
So if you know what you're doing and handle them, I have a a copy of where they would be setting on my property.
Okay.
If, right where the yellow mark is.
Okay, and I made a map of that, but I think I left it in my printer. But I did look on the GIS at the property, and it's not too far from Silver Springs.
Okay.
But it's back in that Cypress kind of area, that Cypress Street area, and then kind of behind there's really not much.
No.
It's
That's
bare
right,
land.
yeah. I'm kind of,
You want to show it to the rest of the council?
Back in behind me somewhere.
And she's the last property on that street, is from what I could
Does
tell.
that abut, I think that abuts a wash or something.
yes, well, it's like right at the cul-de-sac.
Gotcha.
It's right by Linda's house.
Right behind me. I live on 8th Street.
Yeah, so you don't have any neighbors out there?
I have neighbors on the side.
Go ahead and take the,
Yeah, I have neighbors on the side.
You want to pass that down?
and you want it back?
I want to give it to
Okay.
DC's.
And are any of your neighbors here tonight? Speaking, do you have any of your neighbors here tonight
No.
to speak in favor of this or position of this?
No.
Yes, Mr. Elinsky?
I think we've approved them in the past. We haven't had any issues. I'm in favor of people being allowed to keep the bees on their residence. I think it's an important thing, not just for you, but for your neighbors as well, people that are trying to grow gardens in the area, as the bees do pollinate the gardens, and I would be in favor of approving it.
I don't keep bees, but I have lots of bees in my yard because of the roses and the honeysuckles and all of that. And they don't bother anybody.
I have all kinds of flowers, but I have almost no bees in my neighborhood, or at least at my house.
My backyard is full of honeybees.
Really?
Rosemary and stuff.
They love rosemary.
They love rosemary.
And manzanita and,
I'm out there all the time.
Any comments from members of the public on this item? If not, if there's no more comments from the council, let's see.
If you'll excuse me for a second, I remember years ago we had this issue come before us. The man's first name was Stanley. He was somewhere over here off of close to Frank Carroll Lane. And there was concerns about keeping the bees in that area because of the issue of the Africanizing of the bees and such. Were you on the council at that time?
I don't remember that one. I think Judd and Mitzi were about my first one.
You were? And I remember that didn't go through. Do you remember if that was turned down by the council or if the applicant withdrew his application? I was trying to recall that.
Well, if he was on Franquero, he wouldn't have been in the
Well,
city.
he wasn't quite on Frank
He was
Carroll. He's in the
city
city
limits.
side, yeah,
Okay.
but in that direction.
In that area.
I'm just giving you a general direction.
I don't remember. It seems
he
like
had problems, you said?
I'm sorry?
Did he have problems with the bees?
I can't hear you.
Did he have problems with the bees?
He didn't have any problems because he didn't put him in after all. You know, and like I say, the neighborhood, people around me had concerns about the Africanization of the bees, you know. And I must say, in the back of my mind, that is a concern. And we've had quite a few incidences in the news on such issues, shall we say, of the Africanized bees. And that would be my concern on that.
And a lot of the Africanized bees, I mean, I haven't ever heard or read that they come out of the hives as much as that they get into walls, and people are surprised them when they tear something off of a building, and I don't know, but yes, ma'am?
Didn't she just say she has a method to control those bees?
Yes.
So what word does anybody know?
Well, I know if you clip a bird's wing, it can't fly. I've got a conure, and if you keep his wings on one side clipped, then they go down.
They go in a circle,
Right,
or
and
yeah,
then
they don't.
Plop. They hit the floor.
Whereas the queen, if you clip just 1/3 of one of her wings, she won't fly off. So that means the hive will stay in the area. they won't take off.
Did you,
I'm sorry, yes, Vice Mayor?
did you not say that 95% of all the bees now are Africanized?
Yes,
I
yes,
think
they are.
I
And
heard
you
that
know,
on
it's
the
not
news.
as bad as people think. What happens is, if you anger one of them, one will sting you, and then 10 other will come down and sting you. That's why they
That's
call
pretty
them
bad to me.
killer. That's why they call them killer bees. Well, if you know people swat at them or chase them, or like anything else.
I would,
Mr. Dowling?
I have I have a friend of mine that actually had a few hives in a fairly tight residential area, and he never had any complaints. And one thing I know is that people who usually dedicate themselves to the care and keeping of a bee or a hive actually will. I came out of the back door of my office one day and found a hive hanging on a tree limb and a fence, and so people who care about their bees and watch them are normally more apt at noticing a problem, or even being able to keep control of it. Because I know you can smoke them. If there's a problem, you can shut the hive down in an emergency, and I know there's options and procedures for that.
Well, the smokers can kill
Right.
some of the bees, and I have a different method
Okay.
of keeping them from.
Right. I guess I would just say that somebody who actually has a hive in their backyard is probably going to be, there'll probably be less of a chance of bees around that because they're keeping an eye on it and controlling the situation, rather than one that would just spring up with nobody knowing about it or hiding in a house. Because you actually have a place for the bees to be, not just hanging in a tree or under eaves somewhere. So I would just look at it that way, as somebody who dedicates themselves to keeping of bees might be a good neighbor to have in general if there were other bee problems as well. Because I know a lot of people don't know where to go if they have bees. And so it's always nice to have somebody that knows what they're doing with a bee.
And as you guys have said, our whole food supply in the United States relies on bees. So I think council previously, I guess, Mr. Howdegi, were you not on council those 2 times we did approve those? Okay, so he wasn't here then. And that was just some of the discussion that we had, was that without them we have no food.
I was over in Salt Mine Road working on the roads, flagging, and a group of Africanized bees came up to me, I'd say 70, and they started throwing themselves at me. But they won't sting you because they know they're going to die, because their intestines are connected to their stinger.
And that was something before they were Africanized that I heard too. If a bee stung you, that it would die. And that's
Yes.
true for
Well,
Africanized
it's all,
bees
all
too?
bees, yes.
Even the
And
big
they-
bumblebees?
What do you mean
The great
yeah.
big...
Well, they're the worker bees, is what
Okay.
you're talking about.
Right, you're the little bees, but even the big bumblebees, do they die if they sting you? I guess I
You
need
mean
to look
the
it up
big
on Google.
black ones,
The black and
carpenter?
yellow ones?
Oh, the black and yellows is worker bees.
Bumblebees.
Yeah, they call them bumblebees, but they're worker bees, female. If you get a towel, a white towel, and you get it sopping wet, dripping wet, and you throw it over your shoulder, the bees will not bother you. It's better than a smoker.
Mr. Pratt?
I'm wondering if we're ready for a motion.
We are.
Okay. I was wondering how long we were going to discuss bees. I move to approve authorizing the mayor to sign a letter granting Sharon Bushnell permission to keep bees in the backyard of her residence located at 631 South 7th Place.
Second.
Mr. Pratt made the motion. Mr. Elinsky seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Opposed.
Mr. Howdegi is opposed, and the motion carries. So let's see, that's not a resolution. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is item number 2, resolution number 2658, approving a service agreement with the Northern Arizona Council of Governments for the use of community service block grant funds and social services block grant funds for the Cottonwood Area Transit and Verde Link systems. Mr. Faust.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. Your information tonight here, staff is recommending an authorization by the Council of Resolution number 2658 This is a service agreement with the Northern Arizona Council of Governments, NACOG, which basically identifies Cottonwood's management and operation of the CAT and Verde links associated with a low-income block grant opportunity. NACOG would fund all costs and would reimburse the city of Cottonwood as pertains to authorization of this grant from July 1st through June 30th, 2013, if this program is again authorized. So in reality, if council does go through with this and we sign, in reality it would take place fairly quickly, and we would have probably close to nine and a half months of service then through this grant opportunity. With the taking on of all of the operations and administration of CAT and links as of July 1st, 2012, the one thing is we've been very careful as we've looked at the various grant opportunities out there, with particular emphasis in regard to liability issues, as well as the various layering and onerous aspects of some of the grants. They have a lot of multi-layering through different agencies through the state as well as through federal. And so we have to look at the burdensome operational aspects, which means the needs as well as the mandates that are associated with these grants that come with it. So one of the things that Steve Horton has done also, along with myself, we've reviewed this, and after looking through it, we find that this grant is one of those that offers a very good opportunity for the citizens of Cottonwood. And the agreement contents, staff feels confident that this is a community justifiable program and of good intent and ability to assist local disadvantaged populations within our system of operations of both the Cottonwood Area Transit and the Verde Links transit systems. Again, as I stated, the monthly expenses, we would have to monitor those. We would then be going back to NACOG requesting reimbursement, but we have to provide the monthly information directly through to them, but we do have the staff available to do that. Also, Cottonwood will be able to offer eligible individuals of all ages and abilities in order to access transportation services and obtain medical care, employment situations, appointments, employment-related training, job interviews, and other related services as it pertains to needs for transportation and transit services over these next 9 months. This negotiated service agreement basically identifies that there is through this community service block grant, the CSBG, an amount of $3,000 for bus vouchers and an amount of $18,206 for a grand total, and that would be for the social services block grant. And this is a total of $21,206, all again on a reimbursable basis. Are there any questions as it pertains to this grant on behalf of the council?
Mr. Elinsky?
Is it likely that can you tell me how much money we'll get next year? Do you know if the funding is going to continue? It's just absolutely up in the air right now. We just don't know.
One of the things that we talked with Jason Kelly again pertaining to NACOG, again, yeah, these amounts can be adjustable from year to year. And again, it depends on FTA funding as well as funding through their system. And so we don't know if this will be the same amount next year as it is this year. So I couldn't tell you that.
Okay. So what we have is money now for the next 9.5 months that can be reimbursed to us. So we're hoping that this 21,206 is going to last for 9.5 months?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to say whether it will or won't. And
well, based on past projections, do you think that it will last based on the usage that we had received?
This is a 50%, in other words, passengers would pay 50% of the amount of the CAT system. And so therefore, you're looking at realistic, there's 42,000, 43,000 that would, that's actually in there to utilize in that context of 50% match on the behalf of the public. I doubt that it will last the entire year, but again, it's hard to tell because we haven't run the program. I know NAPTA ran a program similar to this, and I'm unsure exactly how much money they had at the time period. I didn't research that, but I don't think that this would last, seeing what we've seen with the taxi voucher program. So I really don't know I couldn't give council that specific information, which I could.
I wish there was some way we could try to stretch the money out to last 9.5 months. If we could monitor how it's being used more closely, maybe we could be successful with that.
Right, and I think again, as the first year of our program operation, as these funds come available, it's one of those things we'll have then as a baseline data, and so we'll be able to then pretty much identify to council next year what we hope that it will last and how it will last as it pertains to servicing the community. And just as information, again, I know that there's an awful lot of information out there, still on the Section 5317 taxi voucher systems. And at this point in time, in conversations with Jason Kelly, who has the oversight authority over that, they are going out on a request for proposal, but it does take them approximately 8 to 10 weeks in order to do that type of grant through NACOG. So at this point in time, his indications they would not have that information back to us as to administrative oversight of an RFP for the Section 5317 funds until after Thanksgiving or even closer to mid-December. So just letting council know that update also.
So how do you make sure that people understand while they're accessing the programs that they are limited funds and they might not necessarily last and they might not be available? How do you ensure that it's just not something expected and people understand or are educated about that this is fantastic, we got this grant,
right,
and we're going for it, but we don't know how long the money will last?
Right, and I think that that's something, again, Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong. If you have additional information, please chip in. I know that this grant here will be very similar in the context that they will have to fill out the paperwork that's necessary then for disadvantaged individuals. Is that correct? And then we at that point in time can also walk them through that again, this is a 50% program. We are unsure on how long that this program will last. I do know also that the Verde Valley Caregivers Association, they have administrative monies that basically provide assistance to fill out, the ADA program. They have assistance to provide for that paratransit and filling out the forms, and they can also provide that information out there to people that there is a grant through NACOG, but how long it will last, we're unsure. So.
Okay. Questions, council members, or comments on this? Okay. If not, we'll take our public input on this item. Let's see, we have Gary LeMaster, who is here on behalf of Mary Rodriguez. Mr. LeMaster. And we all have a package from Mary that I didn't have time to read. We need to get these as, like about a week, if we can, so that we have time to, at least when the agenda goes out, so that we have time to digest them. Or it doesn't do much good after it's all over and we get to read the information. So, but thank you very much anyway.
I understand. Mayor and council members, Mary asked me to read a number of documents. I'm going to try and paraphrase them and consolidate them because I think they fit into a few issues that pertain to NACOG and to the current paratransit
and
system. Everyone
has 5 minutes so that everybody gets equal time.
That's why I'm doing this.
Okay, thank you so much.
First of all, she wanted to point out that with the transit system, there was an incident recently where the bus driver had a flat, couldn't run the route, when people were depending on the bus to get to work, and there was no one available to answer the phones, no one available for no backup. She said there is routinely no one available to answer the phone between the hours of 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. and between 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. For people calling in to find out where the bus is and when it would be arriving to pick them up. She said she had been informed by Debbie that you need to call early in the afternoon because they vacuum and cannot always hear the phone for persons wanting to set up a ride. She asked the question, shouldn't this be done after the phones are no longer answered or whenever the transit buses are no longer running. She outlined a few incidents that happened. I don't know if you may be familiar that she was recently in the hospital with some life-threatening issues, and actually a couple of stays in the hospital. That's why she couldn't be here. But on August 6th, while in the hospital, she called paratransit, talked to Debbie to try to schedule a ride for the following day. Debbie knew she was on medication, 2 grams of morphine. Debbie asked if she would wait until the next day to schedule. Mary said it was okay. The next day, early in the morning, she called paratransit to schedule a ride. For that day, she needed to go to a heart specialist. The doctor said it was imperative. Bill, who answered the phone, she said, I told him it was imperative that I had to get to the specialist. He put me on hold and came back and said, I'm sorry, we can't fit you in today. The appointment was at 3:30. He said they were overbooked. Nothing she could do would get a different answer, so she couldn't get a ride. She then called the city hall and asked for the city manager, explained that the situation. His first response was, you can't take a taxi. When I told him I had no money and he said he would see what he could do, my insurance company then called me and advised that I needed a blood thinner test due to blood loss, and also that home health wasn't in place yet. She called the city manager office and told Renee that it was imperative that she get a blood test. Richard Faust called at about 11, said he had arranged for me to get a paratransit for these 2 appointments. Another incident was with regard to trying to get transit to the guidance clinic. It's on Monday, August 20th. She had an appointment at 4 p.m. She called the paratransit, could not get through. Called City Hall and asked them to contact paratransit to set up the ride. Renee at City Hall asked if she could take a taxi to the appointment. I told her, no, I have no money. Debbie at paratransit called back, asked for a ride at 4 p.m. Monday, and said there was nothing available. They had 40 riders that day, couldn't fit her in. She said, I don't understand what 40 riders means because they have 3 vans, and I don't think everyone is riding at 4 p.m. She explains the reasons, for needing to go. They're very serious. This isn't frivolous. Or as someone said at the last meeting, this isn't unnecessary socialization, which I personally found kind of odd, because for people who are disabled and need transit, it's very important for them to have socialization. They can't be, confined to a home with no availability to talk with others. She also, I think she probably in your packet gave you information about the Cottonwood Taxi Voucher Program. She was
Okay, so another couple seconds.
Sure. Okay. She was concerned that the newspaper article said that there was abuse of the system. There were 4,000 vouchers used by 70 people in an abusive manner. When she looked into it, she found that the actual number was 2663, and the highest amount of trips provided in 1 month was 565 in June.
Okay. So we have all this information,
Okay.
and council, if you want to review it.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you very much,
Sure.
and please
Sure.
thank Mary also. Okay, Nancy Scarangella?
Yes, thank you. I was really Nancy Scarangella, and nice to meet you, and congratulations on your awards.
Thank you.
It's a status report that I came to hear and to relay to the people at the center, and I've heard information that was just devoted to our transportation system that I appreciate having. I'm confused about the number 50% for the paratransits. What does that translate to as far as paying the bus service, and I'd like to fill them in with that number. And also, it's an awful long time not to have the voucher system in place, and we were hoping to know that there was an application with the NACOG or anybody to fund that leg of the transportation system. Anybody have any feedback on that? Was an application placed for, in place for any voucher system?
Can I answer that question?
Certainly. If you would go up to the microphone. Okay.
We had applied, and again, this was as it pertains to the last meeting we had discussed as to the Section 5317 grant, which was the taxi vouchers, the New Freedom grant that's identified through the FTA. And again, it was one of those where council identified that that system needs to be put on hold at this time period. And so this is what we're waiting for. This is why I kind of given the council a little bit of a heads up and an update from Jason Kelly that they are going out for a request for proposal for another entity to possibly take the administrative controls of that and move forward with it, and see if there is, whether the Verde Valley caregivers would possibly consider it, or another entity or agency throughout the Verde Valley. Because at this point in time, again, as we discussed last meeting, there's a lot of requirements through DES. There's a lot of requirements through the FTA. There's a lot of requirements through NACOG. There's a lot of requirements and mandates, and all of these issues are things that we would not be able to uphold because we don't have the additional personnel. And again, it was already identified that indeed we seem to be, somewhat short-staffed. And again, it's kind of like all of our departments. We're doing the best we can with what we've got, but we just don't have we don't have the availability to actually add on another person at this point in time either. And so, Bruce, is there any other thing that you might want to add? So that's kind of an update there as to the Section 5317 New Freedom Grant that we did apply for, but again, at this point in time, it's been put on hold. We probably won't hear anything from NACOG until after Thanksgiving time.
There was a conversation about this, not just the caregivers, but the senior center. Did anybody discuss any of this with the senior center?
Unless, Linda, you have any additional information? No. They, again, would have to probably hire someone on also.
Right. I don't have
I don't think they have
staff.
staff
And this
available.
money doesn't cover any staff?
No.
No.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. Mr. Barker is the next speaker. Mr. Barker? Okay. And is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, is there any possibility?
I think my voice is loud enough that everybody can hear.
Okay.
No? I don't understand, or
And
I
could
would
you
like
give
to...
us your name, please?
Oh, my name is Eileen Smith.
Okay, Eileen, thank you.
And I don't understand what this grant is about, and if the city is still going to maintain control over the CAT system, or does this grant have something to do with them not?
Okay, so you're talking about the social services grant and the NACOG grant.
Right.
Okay.
Are they two different grants?
Mr. Faust?
As the question is, I know that the actual block grant itself, I think there's two funding amounts within the block grant, which total the $21,000. Totals the $21,206. And again, this is basically a 50% match. Again, the city does have total operation and administrative control over both CAT and the links at this time period. And we're continuing to function as these people received rides tonight through paratransit. Our paratransit is functioning, but it is definitely loaded to the max. And as we've seen, I mean, it is one service that is utilized extremely well, and it does its job. We do know that we try to request people to at least give 24 hours. Usually if we can get 48 hours notice, it's even better for us to be able to schedule, because there are so many people requesting services through ADA paratransit. And again, in discussions with Jason Kelly, with both NACOG as well as the state authorities, as long as we are offering the paratransit ADA services in the Cottonwood area, that's all we need to provide at this point in time. And so we are meeting those service needs. We're meeting the service needs within the community for transportation, and we're also going beyond and above in many, many circumstances by providing additional services. We're doing everything we can. Let me just put that forth right now, that we're actually going above and beyond the extra 5 miles. We're trying to assist people the day of. We're providing transportation. As the gentleman was up here before, we actually interceded. We had a 15 to 20 minute window. We got through to another we brought on a part-time person to try to assist and help. With Mary's situation, we got her to the specialist. We were able to fulfill those needs, even though we're requesting policy be provided as we look at 24-hour scheduling, because we cannot supersede someone else that's on the ADA. We can't provide a priority structure. If we did something prioritizing above someone else, it would be illegal. And so therefore, we don't want to bump somebody off in order to give someone else a ride. We can't do that. So we're asking for people to schedule appropriately. And so that's what we're doing. And again, we're going to beyond every imaginable area that we possibly can. Bruce and his staff have been tremendous. Their drivers have been tremendous, and they've been providing all of these service needs. So I just wanted to make sure that staff, or the council knows, staff knows, the public knows that we're actually going above and beyond also and trying to find grants out there. And this is one of those grant areas that we found that actually meets and qualifies, that doesn't have layers of minutia of legal aspects to it, regulations, guidelines that are just layered up with agency upon agency. And so we feel that this one would cooperate definitely with what we would be able to do and provide the service structure also within the community. So this is above and beyond, as a grant, above and beyond what we would operate normally speaking. And Bruce, anything else do you want to provide?
How many, just out of curiosity, how many cities or towns in Arizona that are our size, which is very, very small, 12,000 people, how many cities or towns have a bus transit service?
I think there's about 13 throughout Arizona.
13 out of 99 towns?
Yeah, really close to 13, yes.
And some of those are large, though, like Flagstaff. They have a lot more resources than Cottonwood.
Yes, they do. They have a lot more resources, yes, indeed. And again, it's split out. We definitely work with Sedona. We work with Clarkdale, and we work with the county. And so we're able to provide all of our funding together in order to operate through what they call the Section 5311 Rural Transportation Fund Grant. And that's the rural aspect of the Federal Transportation Administration and ADOT administration that provides for rural funding. And that's the basis where we gather all of our money together and are able to put a pot of money together and match federal monies as well as state monies. And that's how we operate our system, and will continue to operate our system.
Mr. Pratt?
Yeah, again, I think that shows that the city of Cottonwood and its various departments do listen to the concerns of citizens. They're doing the best they can to acquire some money to serve folks who do depend on their transportation. And rather than have nothing, I would say this grant is the best thing now, and then pursue other avenues later on. And certainly this will be a stopgap and help serve that population. And again, I think it's important for people to note that the city does try to serve citizens.
Is he just asking the council to approve for this grant?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
And that's
Yes.
my recommendation.
Ms. Smith?
Well, then that money wouldn't be there, would it?
Yeah, if the grant was not authorized, then we would continue services as we normally have.
Which
through
is full
paratransit
price.
and then the regular routes. So it would be the regular blue route and the regular red route, and we would continue services there. We would continue our normal operations. But this gives the disadvantaged within our community the opportunity then to pay less money than for additional services such as the CAT or the links. But you know, the paratransit continues to operate as its normal function. This is just another alternative opportunity.
Madam Mayor, I think the question might have been, are we applying for the grant? We've been awarded the grant, we're accepting the grant. That's what the council's being asked.
And at this point, it seems like a no-brainer.
I would entertain a motion if you guys are, oh, excuse me, Mr. Hunter? We can bring the mic to you, Mr. Hunter, if you like.
I just have a comment on the article in the paper that talked about the voucher system being abused. As I used the voucher system, and you only got so many per month. And if you used them up all at one time, you got no more until the end of the month. So I don't see how it could be characterized as abuse depending on how they used it. You qualified for so many, and that's all. So I was very, very disturbed about that characterization that we were abusing that. The other question I have is, you mentioned that you're short staff. Did you know this before the city took it over, that you would have enough staff, or were you, how did it, or has the demand become greater than you anticipated, or how has it come about that you're short-staffed?
That's a good question. At this point in time, we actually, we looked at the services that NAPTA was already offering, and as to their services and their operations administration, we duplicated that. And so we basically have a duplication of everything that they had. We felt that that would work, and at this point in time, you know, it appears that we probably could have an extra person working in the office area for administration purposes. We have backup drivers. In fact, that was one of the things that Mr. Morrow had just requested, is there an opportunity where we can afford additional part-time backup drivers? And yes, we do have that within the budget, and so we're progressing and proceeding with that. But administration-wise, there's nothing we can do. We felt that, you know, we were following in line with what NAPTA was doing, and so we felt that we were comfortable with that, and so that's what we did. That's about the best, you know.
And one thing, yeah, I think one thing it's important to understand, the reason the city took NAPTA, or took the bus service back, is because the cost to run this service rose tremendously in the 1 year that NAPTA had. And so it would have totally, what was it, 100 or 200,000 more than we could, so it was resources.
Well, and I think it's important that people understand that the city never had a taxi voucher program. NAPTA put that in place because they got grant money for it as an experimental program. There was really never any intention by NAPTA to continue that program unless funding was available to do it. And there's some question as to whether NAPTA was actually beating all the reporting and monitoring requirements of that grant. So again, it was an experimental program, and from our perspective, it may not be a program that works, particularly if there's only $10,000 worth of funding and we've got to pay $40,000, $50,000 to bring on another staff member to monitor it. It doesn't make a lot of financial sense.
Mr. Pratt?
Yeah, again, now that my mic is back on, again, I think it's important to note that the city is trying to serve people, that this grant, going after the grant, is a positive and progressive move on the city's part, and not accepting the grant would be silly. Again, this seems to be a no-brainer. Let's accept this grant.
Pardon? Norris? Norris? Is this? Okay. Can you come up to the microphone, Norris? Sure. You're able to do that?
I was just going to say, if NAPTA had that $40,000 grant and people were misusing it, if we get a decent grant here, we figure it all out, we won't be misusing it and we'll have the money left over to do stuff with.
Okay. Thank you very much. And Norris Klein for the record. Okay. And we have Nancy. Nancy, where did that form go?
Thank you.
I lost that form. Oh, Nancy, it's right in my hand here. Nancy Rennick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and the council. I do appreciate the fact that you do have a bus system for us. One thing I do have a question with on this grant, is there any consideration of extending the hours for us, or like in the evening or even on a Saturday or Sunday? Because that is something I find is needed for myself and also several other people that I'm aware of. That was one question. And also, this money that we're getting, where is the focus of that money going to be going? And then thirdly and lastly is, I find that I think there's a major computer problem. The computers are not structured properly to make them user-friendly for the staff that are using them, and also helping us make our reservations. I find that is probably one of the largest things that I seem, as a user, seem to be picking up on, adding extra stress upon the employees who have done an outstanding job with what they have. Thank you.
Thank you. As to the question as to who this grant serves or the functionality of the grant, that's in the justification, benefits, and issues statement. It basically identifies that by entering into the agreement document with Northern Arizona Council of Governments, NACOG Cottonwood will be able to offer eligible individuals of all ages and abilities in order to access transportation services or obtain medical care or employment. That is, medical appointments, employment-related training, job interviews, and other services related to needs for transportation transit services over the next 9 months. That's the extent of the grant. That's what you have also in the attachment information. So it doesn't really go into, I think, the explicit specifications as to what it's for. As to the other question, can we extend services on weekends at this point in time? Due to the loss of Arizona state funding in the context of I can't even think of the acronym, but it was the transportation grant that was offered through the lottery fund. That was eliminated, and so the city lost over $200,000 alone in that context. That was one of the biggest reasons why we cut the green line. We went with, instead of 3 routes, back to 2 routes. And again, it's one of the biggest problems we have with the service is that we just don't have the funding in order to keep the system rolling on a Saturday and Sunday. That is the highest priority that's been identified with the state of Arizona ADOT. They indicated one step at a time, and because we have a lot of priorities that we would like to see with this, with our program, Linda knows also, we have a lot of them, but that will be one of the first things that we take a look at is reestablishing of the green line someday, as well as possibly operating on the weekdays, but at this point in time, we are unable to because of lack of funding.
The weekends, did you mean?
Yes, I mean weekends, yes.
And we used to operate on Saturdays, but as I understand it, we had very few riders.
We had less ridership on Saturdays, that's correct.
And NAPTA decided to, because of the budget crunch, to
Right.
do away with the Saturdays. But
Right.
yes, your points are well taken. Thank you for making
And that was
them.
that was LTAP funding, so that was LTAP 2. So that
Okay.
was the funding that was eliminated. And then it was the same thing with the HERF revenues, because highway user revenue funding had declined also, and that was one of the things that Rudy Rodriguez was specific on pointing out, is between loss of LTAP 2 funding and then also HERF funding, we were unable to continue the process. NAPTA then eliminated the green line, and so we just had the 2 routes then, and we went back to just regular weekday services. And so at this point in time, those are issues that we're looking at for the 2013-14 grant year, which will be coming up in December. We'll be applying for that grant. But again, we'll just have to see how it goes with funding from the state as well as from the federal government.
And I do think the best thing that members of the audience could do, is the public, is to contact your state legislators and ask them to restore the funding that has been taken away. That's the greatest thing that you could do to help us.
That's correct.
Mr. Pratt?
Yeah. Is it time for a motion?
I think it is. I don't have any more forms to fill out, or
I
forms for
move
speakers.
to approve resolution number 2658, approving a service agreement with the Northern Arizona Council of Governments for the use of community service block grant and social services block grant funds for the use with the Cottonwood Area Transit and Verde Links transit systems from July 1st, 2012 through June 30th, 2013.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Pratt made the motion, Councilmember Norman made the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, so we will get the grant.
Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you all for coming tonight. We appreciate you sharing your ideas and thoughts. Okay, item number 3 is amendment number 2 to the design build contract with MCOR Services Arizona for the purchase and installation of the solar thermal system for the Cottonwood Recreation Center. Mr. Manjapan.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, we are requesting the approval of the next phase for this project, which is the actual purchase and construction of the solar system. We have gone through on the design phase and sized and designed the system. There's a lot of backup material here that shows what we're planning on doing. It's pretty straightforward. It's a simpler project than we were initially thinking we were going to do. Once we got into it, it was obvious that the evacuated tube system, the more sophisticated system, wasn't what we needed and was overkill for our demands at the rec center. What we're proposing is a very simple flat panel drain down system. The best way to describe it is it's a commercial version of what you might have on a residential system. Panels up on the roof, water gets pumped around to the panels. There's a sensor on the system so that if we're facing freezing weather or if we don't have the demand for the hot water, which is kind of critical considering our summers around here, the system just turns itself off and all the water drains down out of the system into a storage tank in the mechanical room. It's very basic, very simple. The moving parts are the pumps that pump the water up to the panels and then that comes back down. That's it. So we wanted to go as simple as possible. That allowed us to make it a little bit bigger system. At one point in one of the cover letters from MCOR, they mentioned that initially we thought we were going to have, let me get the right numbers here, 380 kilowatt system based on the budget numbers we gave them. Working through as far as the type of system and size of the system, we're able to go to a 460 kilowatt system. It's almost as much as we could possibly use. We ran out of the budget money a little bit before we ran out of basically the demand. But that's okay, that's the way to do it. You can't oversize the system because you'll be wasting heat.
Hang on just a minute.
Sure.
I think the bus is here and they're going to, I apologize, but if we could just take a short break.
I'm losing my audience. Oh, that's okay.
Okay, all right.
Thanks for coming.
getting an emergency notification?
I don't know how to turn it off.
3-point turn.
It's pretty good on that thing.
Yeah. Getting around.
Excuse me, sir. Who are you again?
Thanks for coming tonight, Mr. Hunter.
Thank you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want to sound critical of the system, because it is a great system.
I know, I've heard you compliment it many times.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
Get myself together here.
All right, well, take your time. Be careful. That rug. Okay.
Now that I've chased everybody out.
All right.
The party can start.
We're interested in what you have to say, so.
I appreciate that. I did include
Actually,
some...
this is very exciting. We've been waiting for this for, what, a year or two?
Yep. And I apologize for that, but it does take a while to get through this stuff.
Yes, I understand.
The general gist is we've got an overall system. It's a little undersized, but again, we were running into the budget dollars, which is fine. That's a better way to do it than to have it oversized and then not be able to use it certain portions of the year. We did look at putting a system at the rec center as well as a system at the outdoor pool. Once we got into it, we realized the outdoor pool with its very limited season makes for a very inefficient use of the panels. You've got a hot water system sitting up on the roof of the pool house 6-8 months out of the year doing nothing. That same money that we would have put into that system, we put into this system to make it a little bit bigger. It ends up being a lot better use of the dollars.
Sounds like a smart thing. No-brainer?
No-brainer. Yeah, I see that it comes from revenues from the GADA funds. I see that it'll be between 13 and 16.5 years before it pays for itself, and that it does have a 25-year lifespan. It will reduce utility costs at the rec center, which is one of the big killers there. It'll be a clean kind of energy, and it's something we've looked forward to for ages. So yes, this one's a no-brainer, I think.
And I appreciate the clarification on that. The one thing I wanted to throw in there, the reason I give you the range on the paybacks is nobody has the crystal ball to forecast where the gas prices are going.
Right.
We've been very fortunate. The prices have been down for a long time. They may stay down. I can give you half a dozen reports from the internet that'll say it'll be level for quite a while. Another half dozen that'll say it's going to go crazy in a few years. That's why I wanted to give you the range. Even the worst case scenario, if it stays at 2%, it still pay for itself before we have to replace it. So you've gone through and you've eliminated all that gas usage for all those years, and it hasn't cost us anything.
Plus, there's the unpredictable. You have a disaster at a gas-producing plant like they just had in, outside of San Francisco, and energy goes up.
Yeah. So that was the big argument we've had the last few weeks before I put this package together with EMCOR, was their forecast of what the payback would be versus, I mean, they've assumed some other, the APS rebates. Well, the APS rebates right now are minimal or almost none. It's very competitive. It's when you get in, it took us 3 quarters to get what little we're going to get out of APS for the airport solar. So to count on that as a payback, I did not. All I did was just strictly the inflation on the gas.
Yeah.
That's as simple as I could make it. And it's still, at the worst case scenario, if the gas doesn't go up at 2% a year, it'll still pay for itself. So I think it's worth doing.
I think it's a great thing.
Yep. And, you know, our contract for design build, it's basically, it's a cost plus type project. They have their cost, they have their fee on top of that, and everything is open book. So we'll see all that, so I'll be able to control that. Any other questions?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Dowling, please.
I'll move to approve Amendment 2 to the design-build contract with MCOR Services, Arizona, in the amount of $417,600 for the purchase and installation of the solar thermal system for the recreation center.
Second.
Mr. Dowling made the motion, Mr. Elinsky seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries, and if the council doesn't mind, we need to go back and have the deputy clerk read resolution number 2658 on the prior item. So thank you, Mr. Manjapan.
I don't think I have a resolution.
Thanks, Scott.
And Madam Mayor, real quick on this item, as a piece of this item, the council had also
The playground
discussed.
equipment.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, but I didn't know if I could under this agenda.
And we're doing some research on that, and we'll come back to the council in the near future with some options.
Okay, great. Thank you. Deputy Clerk, will you please read resolution number 2658 by title only?
Resolution number 2658, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, approving a service agreement with the Northern Arizona Council of Governments for the use of community service block grant funds and social services block grant funds for the Cottonwood area transit and break-link systems.
Thank you. All right, and thank you, Mr. Manjapan. We'll let you go home now, if you wish. Claims and adjustments, I didn't see that at the bottom of my page, did I?
Oh, it's there.
It's there, okay.
I
Hang
move
on.
we pay the claims and adjustments.
There it is, okay.
Second.
All right, so Councilmember Norman, that's not all on my page yet.
Get down there.
Councilmember Norman made the motion, Councilmember Elinsky seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, so the mayor made the motion and Mr. Pratt seconded it. We're adjourned.